Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's jump into today's story. This is the story of a young woman named Emma, who never imagined that one decision would change her life forever. She was a waitress, working long hours to make ends meet, dreaming of a better future, but struggling to stay afloat. Her world was small, her apartment cramped, and her dreams of opening her own art studio seemed further away than ever. On one ordinary night, after a long day at the diner, Emma reluctantly agreed to meet her best friend Jenny's blind date setup. She wasn't expecting anything special, just a quick dinner to please Jenny. But what she didn't know was that she was about to sit at the wrong table and meet someone who would turn her world upside down. As Emma entered the upscale restaurant, the soft hum of conversation and the clinking of silverware filled the air. The warm, subdued lighting created a cozy atmosphere, and the polished plates looked like works of art. Emma took a deep breath as she stood near the entrance, adjusting her second-hand dress and scuffed shoes. She wasn't exactly dressed for a place like this, but she had promised Jenny she'd show up. Table 7, she murmured to herself, feeling a knot form in her stomach. Her eyes scanned the room, quickly locking on a man sitting at the back, engrossed in his phone. He was sharply dressed, his dark hair neatly styled. That had to be him, she thought. Gathering her nerves, she walked over, her heart racing. She forced a bright smile and said, "Hi, you must be Kevin. I'm Emma. Nice to meet you." The man blinked at her, clearly surprised, and after a brief moment, he smiled faintly and said, Hi Emma." Emma thought he was just a little shy. She took a seat across from him, her hands fidgeting nervously. She tried to fill the silence. "I know this is awkward. Blind dates are weird, right?" she said with a nervous laugh. "Jenny told me you might be a little quiet, so don't worry, I can talk enough for both of us." The man opened his mouth to say something, but hesitated. His phone buzzed, a text from his business associate, canceling their meeting for the evening. Something about Emma's earnest smile made him pause. She was unlike the polished socialites he usually encountered, the women who saw him as a prize to be won. Instead, she seemed genuine, and that intrigued him. He offered a faint smile. "Right, blind dates are something else." The conversation flowed from there, surprisingly easy. Emma talked about her struggles as a waitress, her dream of one day opening an art studio, and the difficulties she faced just to keep a roof over her head. Her enthusiasm and openness were refreshing, and Liam, who usually kept to himself, found himself laughing more than he had in months. "You're not what I expected," Emma said, a little shy. "Jenny said you were reserved, but you're easy to talk to." Liam chuckled softly. "You're easy to talk to too." Just as Emma was about to ask him more about his work, her phone buzzed again. "Hey Emma, where are you?" "I'm at table 7. Her heart sank as she read the message. She looked up at Liam, her face flushed with embarrassment. "You're not Kevin, are you?" she asked quietly. Liam's smile faltered slightly, guilt flickering in his eyes. "No, I'm not," he said, his voice softer now. Emma's face turned crimson. "Oh my God," she muttered, standing up abruptly. "I'm so sorry. I sat at the wrong table. This is so embarrassing." Before Liam could say anything, Emma grabbed her coat and bolted for the door, her face burning with shame. Liam watched her go, a strange mix of regret and curiosity swirling inside him. He had intended to correct her from the beginning, but something about her honesty and the way she opened up to him had stopped him. And now, as she disappeared out the door, he couldn't shake the feeling that he might never see her again. Why did that thought bother him so much? As Emma rushed through the door, her cheeks still red with embarrassment, she was sure she would never see him again. It was the worst blind date fail she could imagine. But as she walked down the street, her mind wandered back to the man she'd just left behind. His calm demeanor, his laugh, his kindness. She couldn't help but wonder, was it possible that this accidental meeting might have been more than just a mistake? After running out of the restaurant, Emma could hardly believe what had just happened. She had accidentally sat at the wrong table, had an entire conversation with a complete stranger, and now she was practically running away from him in embarrassment. Her face was still flushed with shame, and her heart pounded in her chest as she walked down the busy city street. She couldn't believe she had made such a mistake. What was she thinking? How could she have thought that man was Kevin? She felt like crawling under a rock. She pulled her coat tighter around herself, wishing the ground would swallow her up. Emma had always been self-conscious about her appearance. As a waitress, her work uniform wasn't exactly glamorous. She had spent years scraping by, paying bills, and dreaming of a life that felt just out of reach. The reality of her situation weighed heavily on her, and the idea of attending a blind date at a fancy restaurant had felt like a dream come true, even if it meant spending an hour with someone she didn't know. But now, as she walked the rainy streets, all she could feel was the sting of embarrassment. The next morning, Emma had almost convinced herself that she would never think about Liam Parker again. After all, why should she? He was just some guy she had mistaken for someone else. But for some reason, she couldn't shake the memory of their conversation. She had been nervous, of course, but his calm presence and the way he had listened to her made her feel like she mattered. It was strange. In her world, people rarely paid attention to her, especially not men in suits who sat at the back of fancy restaurants. As the day went on, Emma tried to put it out of her mind, focusing on her shift at the diner. The clinking of plates and the hum of conversation were comforting in their familiarity. But even with the distractions, she couldn't help but think about Liam. Who was he really? He had said he worked in tech, but that didn't tell her much. She found herself wondering how someone like him could possibly be interested in someone like her. It felt too good to be true. Then again, she had always been a little bit of a dreamer. Maybe it was just her imagination running wild. Just as she was wiping down the counter, Emma's phone buzzed. She glanced down at the screen and saw a message that made her heart stop. It was from Jenny. "Hey Emma, I know things were awkward last night, but I think you should know something. That guy you sat with? He's Liam Parker, the CEO of Parker Tech, total millionaire. He's actually a really nice guy, and he told me he'd love to see you again. Just thought you should know." Smiling face with smiling eyes, Emma's jaw dropped. CEO? Millionaire? Liam Parker? It couldn't be. How had she not recognized him? How had she talked to him like he was just some ordinary guy when he was someone so important? It made no sense. Her heart started racing again. Was this a joke? Was Jenny messing with her? But the more she thought about it, the more she realized that Jenny wouldn't joke about something like this. She stood there for a moment, staring at the message, her mind swirling with a million thoughts. What did this mean? Was Liam really interested in her? Or was he just being polite? Emma didn't know what to think. She felt a mixture of excitement and fear, unsure of what would happen next. After a few minutes of pacing back and forth, Emma finally decided to take a deep breath and call Jenny. "Hey, Jenny," Emma said when Jenny answered. "I just saw your message. Is this for real? Liam Parker? The CEO? The tech guy?" "Yeah, that's him," Jenny replied, her voice full of excitement. "He's super low-key, which is why you probably didn't recognize him. But trust me, he's a great guy. He told me you two had a good conversation last night, and he wants to meet up again. I think you should go for it." Emma paused, still in disbelief. "I don't know, Jenny. I'm not exactly his type. I'm just a waitress. And he's a millionaire CEO. It doesn't make sense." "Emma, you're so much more than that," Jenny said, her tone soft but firm. "I know it feels crazy, but sometimes the universe works in mysterious ways. Just give it a shot. You never know where it might lead." Emma felt a knot form in her stomach, torn between her doubts and the curiosity that was beginning to bubble inside her. She had never been one to take chances, but something about this situation felt different. Maybe it was fate. Maybe it was just a chance for something better. She didn't know what it was, but she knew she had to find out. Later that day, she received a message from Liam. "Hey Emma, I know things got a little awkward last night, but I'd really like to make it up to you. Would you be willing to grab coffee with me sometime this week?" For a moment, Emma just stared at the message, her heart beating faster. She had no idea what she was doing, but she couldn't help but say yes. The next morning, they arranged to meet at a small cafe. As she prepared for their meeting, Emma felt a mixture of excitement and nervousness. What was she getting herself into? And what was Liam really like? She didn't know the answers to any of those questions, but one thing was certain. Her life was about to change, and it might just be in a way she never expected. Emma stood outside the cafe, her nerves buzzing like electricity in her chest. She couldn't believe she was actually meeting Liam again. She had spent the morning trying to calm herself, practicing deep breaths. But now that she was here, everything felt real. What was she even doing? What did she expect to come from this? She had no idea what Liam saw in her, but she was determined to figure it out. She glanced at her watch. He was running a little late, but that was okay. The moment she stepped inside, the warm scent of coffee hit her, and she felt a small wave of relief. This was a familiar place, a neutral zone where she could think clearly. When Liam walked in, she immediately recognized him, but there was something different about him. He wasn't wearing a suit this time. He was dressed casually, in a simple sweater and jeans, his dark hair slightly tousled, as though he had just come from a long day of work. He looked more approachable, more like a regular person. He spotted her across the room and gave her a soft smile. She felt her heart flutter as he made his way to the table, his steps steady and confident. He sat down across from her, and they exchanged pleasantries, both a little awkward, unsure of where to begin. "I'm glad you agreed to meet," Liam said, his voice warm but guarded. "I know things were a little strange last time." He gave a half-hearted laugh, clearly trying to break the ice. Emma smiled, trying to shake off her nervousness. "Yeah, I guess you could say that. But honestly, I'm glad you reached out. It was a crazy night, but I think we both know what happened was a bit of a mix-up. Still, I'm glad we're giving this a chance." There was a brief pause as they both took in the situation. Emma fiddled with her cup, not sure how to proceed. Finally, Liam spoke up. "I think I owe you an apology," he said, his tone sincere. "I should have told you who I really was last night. But, honestly, I was just enjoying our conversation. You weren't like anyone I've met before. I wasn't sure if I should just be upfront about everything, or if I should just let things unfold." Emma blinked, surprised by his honesty. She had expected him to be more guarded, to brush off the awkwardness of their last encounter, but he didn't. He was owning up to it. She felt a flicker of admiration for him, something she hadn't expected to feel. "I don't know what to say," Emma replied, her voice quieter now. "I guess I'm still processing it. I never thought I'd end up having dinner with the CEO, let alone actually meet you again like this." She laughed softly, the sound tinged with disbelief. "I don't know why you'd want to meet someone like me." She quickly added, "I'm just a waitress. Not exactly glamorous, right?" She felt a twinge of insecurity rise, but she quickly brushed it aside. Liam's expression softened. He leaned forward, his eyes locking with hers. "Emma, I'm not here to judge you or put you down. I've had plenty of people in my life who are only interested in what I can offer them. But that's not you. You're different. I liked how real you were last night, how unpolished. It's refreshing." He paused, letting his words sink in before continuing. "I know I'm not exactly someone you'd expect to be. Well, the kind of person to be interested in someone like you. But I think we both feel a connection here, right?" His voice had a gentle edge to it, as if he was trying to be vulnerable with her. Emma was taken aback by his sincerity. She had expected him to be aloof, to treat this like some business transaction, but instead, he seemed genuinely interested in her. It was a feeling she wasn't used to, and it scared her, because she was starting to feel it too. But what did it mean? Was he just being kind, or was there more to this? She hesitated for a moment, her thoughts swirling. "I'm just not sure what's happening here," she admitted. "I didn't come here expecting anything, but now? I don't know. I guess I'm just trying to figure out what this is, and why you're being so open with me." She searched his face for answers, but all she saw was honesty. He smiled softly, almost as if he understood her confusion. "I know this must feel a little crazy, and believe me, I wasn't expecting it either. But sometimes, things just happen. And when they do, it's hard to ignore them. I think there's something here, something worth exploring, even if it's complicated." The conversation shifted after that, moving away from awkward explanations and towards real, personal topics. They talked about their lives, their hopes, and their fears. For the first time in a long while, Emma felt seen. Not for her job or her financial struggles, but for who she truly was inside. And she found herself drawn to Liam in a way she hadn't expected. As they wrapped up their coffee, Liam offered her a genuine smile, his eyes soft. "I know this is all moving fast, but I'd really like to see you again. Would you be open to that?" he asked, his voice quiet but earnest. Emma paused for a moment, looking into his eyes, and felt something shift inside her. Maybe this was the start of something real. Maybe they could both let go of their fears and see where this unexpected connection would take them. She smiled back at him, her heart racing, But this time, it wasn't out of fear. "I'd like that," she said softly. As they stood up to leave the cafe, Emma felt a sense of excitement and possibility bubbling inside her. She wasn't sure what the future held, but she knew that, for once, she was ready to find out. It had been a few days since Emma and Liam had met for coffee, and the awkwardness between them had faded into something more comfortable, something real. They texted occasionally, exchanging light-hearted messages about their day, and agreed to meet again. Despite how the last few days had unfolded, Emma found herself excited for their next meeting. She had never expected anything like this to happen. She never expected to connect with someone like Liam. She didn't even know what to call it yet, but there was something undeniably magnetic between them. It was a rainy Thursday afternoon when they met again. Emma had just finished a long shift at the diner and was exhausted, but she couldn't help but feel a flutter of anticipation when she saw Liam waiting for her outside the cafe. He was standing by a small table under an awning, looking casually dressed in a leather jacket and jeans, with a cup of coffee in front of him. The sight of him made her heart race, but it also made her feel nervous in the best way possible. As she approached, Liam looked up, a warm smile spreading across his face. "Hey, Emma," he said, standing up to greet her. "I'm glad you could make it. I know you've had a long day." Emma smiled back, feeling the nerves settle as she took a seat across from him. "Yeah, it's been a rough day, but I'm glad to be here. It's been nice talking to you." She shifted in her seat, trying to find a more comfortable position. It was strange, but whenever she was with Liam, the world around her seemed to fade away. She didn't feel the pressure of her bills or the weight of her responsibilities as much when he was around. "I'm glad you feel that way," Liam said, his voice quiet but sincere. He sipped his coffee before continuing. "You know, I've been thinking a lot about the other day. I mean, I know we both agreed to take things slow, but there's something here that I can't ignore. I've met a lot of people, Emma, but I've never felt this connection before." Emma looked down at her coffee, unsure of how to respond. She felt the same way, but she didn't want to jump into anything too quickly. "I've been thinking about it too," she admitted. "It's just, this is all new to me. I never imagined something like this happening. I've spent so much of my life just trying to survive, trying to make ends meet, that I never stopped to think about the possibility of something more, you know?" She glanced up at him, her eyes meeting his. "I'm not sure if I'm ready for this kind of change, but," she paused, taking a deep breath. "But I'm willing to try. Maybe this time, I don't need to be so cautious. Maybe I can actually let myself experience something different." Liam smiled softly, his eyes softening with understanding. "I know it's a lot to take in," he said gently, "and I don't want to rush you. I just wanted you to know that I'm here, and I'm interested in seeing where this goes. I'm not looking for something casual. I don't want to waste either of our time." Emma's heart skipped a beat. She had been worried that he might be just another person who wasn't serious about her, another person who would see her as a passing moment in their life. But Liam wasn't like that. He wasn't trying to rush her into anything, and he wasn't treating her like an afterthought. He was actually listening to her, paying attention to her fears and hopes. "I appreciate that," Emma replied, her voice quieter now. "I've never been in a situation like this before. I've always been the one who took care of everything, who put others first. But with you, I don't feel like I have to be strong all the time. You make me feel like it's okay to just be." She paused, feeling a lump form in her throat. "I'm not used to feeling this way." For a moment, Liam said nothing. He just watched her with an intensity that made her feel both exposed and safe at the same time. He reached across the table, taking her hand gently in his. "You don't have to be strong all the time, Emma," he said softly. "And you don't have to be alone in this anymore. I'm here for you, no matter what. We can take this as slow as you need. Just know that I'm not going anywhere." Emma felt a weight lift off her chest at his words. It wasn't a fairy tale, and it wasn't going to be easy, but for the first time in a long time, she felt like she wasn't carrying the world on her shoulders alone. She squeezed his hand gently and smiled. "Thank you," she whispered, her heart full. She had never imagined that a simple coffee date could lead to this feeling of peace, but here she was. And for the first time in a long while, she was ready to let herself be a little vulnerable, to open up to the possibility of love, even if it scared her. As they sat there, talking more about their lives and dreams, Emma realized that maybe, just maybe, she had been right to take this chance. It wasn't perfect, but it was real. And for once, She was allowing herself to embrace it. The days following their coffee meeting felt different for Emma. Something had shifted inside her, a small but significant change. She wasn't sure if it was because of Liam's gentle assurance or because she was starting to believe in something she had never allowed herself to before: hope. They had started texting more frequently, talking about their days, their dreams, their fears. It was easy to fall into this new rhythm with him, easy to let go of the anxiety that had always clung to her life. One evening, after another long shift at the diner, Emma received a text from Liam. It was simple, just a suggestion. "I'm planning to attend a charity event this weekend. It's an informal gathering, nothing too fancy. I'd love it if you could come with me. What do you think?" Emma paused for a moment, staring at the message on her phone. A charity event? She had never attended something like that before. The world of wealth and polished appearances felt foreign to her. But there was something about Liam's invitation that felt different. He wasn't asking her to impress anyone. He just wanted her there. And for some reason, that made all the difference. She typed a quick reply, her fingers trembling slightly. "I'd love to go. I think it could be fun." She hit send, her heart racing with the thought of stepping into Liam's world. This new world where she might not feel quite so out of place. The night of the event, Emma stood in front of her mirror, uncertain about what to wear. She didn't have a closet full of expensive dresses or tailored outfits. But as she looked at the small selection of clothes she owned, she picked out a simple black dress, one she had bought years ago for a friend's wedding. It wasn't fancy, but it fit well, and that was all she really needed. She added a pair of black heels and a touch of makeup, then took a deep breath. This was it. When she arrived at the event, Emma felt the familiar tightness in her chest. The venue was elegant. Everything from the grand chandelier to the soft music playing in the background screamed wealth and sophistication. She had never been in a place like this before, and the sense of being out of place quickly crept in. She felt the sharp contrast between herself and the well-dressed guests around her, all of whom seemed to belong here. As soon as she spotted Liam across the room, though, the tension in her chest began to ease. He was talking with a few people, his usual confident self, but when he saw her standing by the entrance, his face softened, and he excused himself to walk toward her. "You made it," he said, his voice warm and welcoming. He reached out to take her hand, and when he did, the unease that had been building inside her seemed to vanish. "You look beautiful," he added with a smile. Emma felt her cheeks flush, the compliment making her feel both self-conscious and cherished. "Thank you," she said softly. "I was a little nervous about being here, but it feels better now." She looked around at the event, taking in the elegantly dressed guests and the high-end surroundings. "This is a bit overwhelming." Liam chuckled, his hand still gently holding hers. "I get it. It can be intimidating at first. But just remember, everyone here is just people. Nothing to be nervous about. Just enjoy yourself, okay?" His words were calming, and Emma found herself nodding, her anxiety slowly melting away. The night passed in a blur of conversations, drinks, and small talk. But through it all, Emma kept finding herself by Liam's side. He introduced her to a few people, but never once did he make her feel like an outsider. Instead, he made her feel included, like she truly belonged. She even started to relax and enjoy herself, laughing at the jokes being told and engaging in conversations she never thought she would have. For the first time in a long while, Emma felt like she wasn't just surviving life, she was living it. Later in the evening, Liam pulled her aside to a quieter corner of the event. "I'm glad you came tonight," he said, his expression sincere. "It means a lot to me that you're here. I know it's a lot to ask, but I want you to know that I'm not just doing this for the sake of appearances. I enjoy spending time with you, more than I thought I would." Emma felt a lump form in her throat at his words. She hadn't realized just how much she was starting to care for him. She had always kept people at arm's length, too afraid to get hurt. But with Liam, it felt different. It felt real. She took a deep breath, her voice soft as she spoke. "I'm starting to feel the same way," she admitted. "I wasn't sure about all of this, but now it feels like we're really building something, something real." Liam smiled, a genuine smile that made Emma's heart skip a beat. "Yeah," he said quietly. "I think we are." He reached for her hand once more, his grip warm and reassuring. As the night wound down, Emma couldn't help but feel a sense of gratitude. She had come into this event unsure of herself, unsure of where this relationship was going. But now, standing beside Liam, she realized that sometimes, taking a leap of faith, even when it felt uncertain, could lead to something beautiful. She wasn't sure where this would all go, but for the first time in a long time, she was excited to find out. The days that followed the charity event were filled with a quiet, unspoken understanding between Emma and Liam. They spent more time together, texting throughout the day, grabbing lunch during her breaks, and even meeting up on weekends. Emma found herself thinking about him more and more, and each time they were together, she felt a sense of ease she hadn't experienced in years. She no longer had to pretend to be someone else, to hide the insecurities that had plagued her for so long. With Liam, she felt seen, really seen, and it was both comforting and terrifying. One Friday evening, after a particularly exhausting shift at the diner, Emma was walking home when she received a call from Liam. His name popped up on her phone, and for a moment, she felt a wave of warmth spread through her. She answered quickly, "Hey Emma, how's it going?" Liam's voice was easy and relaxed, just the sound of it making her feel a little lighter. "Hey Liam, I'm good. Just got off work. Exhausted, but good," she replied, smiling as she continued walking down the street. The familiar rhythm of her feet hitting the pavement felt grounding after such a hectic day. "I was thinking," Liam said, his tone shifting slightly. "I know you've been working hard lately, and I wanted to do something nice for you. There's a little trip I've been planning, nothing too fancy, just a weekend getaway. I thought it might be nice to get away from the city for a bit, you know? Would you want to join me?" Emma's heart skipped a beat. A weekend getaway? The idea of leaving her routine behind, even for a few days, seemed like a dream. But as the excitement hit her, a sudden wave of doubt crept in. "I don't know," she said hesitantly. "That sounds amazing, but I've never really done something like that. And with my schedule, I don't know if I can just take off like that." Liam chuckled, as if he could sense her hesitation. "I get it. I wasn't trying to pressure you. But maybe it's time you did something for yourself. You work so hard, Emma. You deserve a break. And it's not like we have to go anywhere too extravagant. Just a quiet spot by the lake, a little cabin. Some time to relax." She paused, walking slower now, feeling the weight of his words. Was she ready for something like this? A trip away from her usual life? She had always been the one to stay grounded, never taking chances. But maybe, just maybe, it was time to step out of her comfort zone. "Okay," she finally said, her voice softer now. "I think I'd like that. I think I need it." "Good," Liam replied, his tone brightening. "I'll take care of everything. I promise it'll be just what you need. No work, no distractions, just us. We'll figure out the details when you're free, but just know that I'm really looking forward to it." As Emma hung up the phone, she couldn't help but smile to herself. She had never expected her life to take this turn. Just a few months ago, she had been struggling to pay bills, thinking about her dreams that seemed so far out of reach. Now, here she was, planning a weekend getaway with a man who, despite the difference in their worlds, seemed to genuinely care about her. The next day, they finalized the plans for the trip. Liam had already booked the cabin, and Emma felt a nervous excitement build in her chest as she imagined the quiet, peaceful weekend they would have. She couldn't remember the last time she had allowed herself to feel this kind of anticipation. When the weekend finally arrived, Emma packed a small suitcase with a few essentials, trying to keep it simple. She made sure to bring her favorite book, some comfortable clothes, and of course, the basics she would need for a few days away. When Liam arrived to pick her up, he was waiting outside her apartment building in his sleek black car, looking effortlessly put together as always. He greeted her with a warm smile as she approached. "Ready for a little getaway?" he asked, his voice light and playful. Emma nodded, feeling a mixture of nerves and excitement. "I think so. It feels a little surreal, to be honest. But I'm glad we're doing this." "Me too," Liam said, opening the car door for her. "Let's make it a weekend to remember." As they drove out of the city and toward the quiet lakeside cabin, Emma couldn't help but think about how much her life had changed in such a short time. She had gone from a life of uncertainty and hard work, barely scraping by, to a life where she was starting to believe in something bigger, something better. Liam had come into her life when she least expected it, and now, as they headed toward a peaceful weekend away, she realized that maybe she was finally beginning to understand what it felt like to be truly happy. The car ride was filled with easy conversation, and the closer they got to the cabin, the more Emma could feel the weight of her everyday worries start to lift. This was her chance to reset, to breathe, and maybe, just maybe, to allow herself to see where this connection with Liam could take her. The drive to the cabin felt like a dream to Emma. The city slowly faded into the distance, and the winding roads took them deeper into the countryside, surrounded by tall trees and the peaceful sounds of nature. As they approached the cabin, the world felt quieter, more serene, and for the first time in a long while, Emma felt her tension ease. The weight of her everyday life seemed so far away now. Liam glanced over at her, his expression soft as he noticed her relaxed posture. "You look like you're already starting to unwind," he said, his voice gentle. "I told you it would be good for you." Emma smiled, the corners of her lips lifting as she looked at him. She felt a warmth spread through her chest, not just from the cabin's cozy appearance, but from the way Liam had made her feel at ease. When they finally arrived, the cabin was even more beautiful than Emma had imagined. It was small and rustic, but charming, nestled against the edge of a quiet lake. The soft glow of the setting sun reflected off the water, casting a peaceful aura over the entire scene. The air smelled fresh, the kind of clean, crisp air you could only find far from the noise of the city. They unloaded the car together, laughing as they carried bags inside, the sound of their voices mingling with the rustling of leaves outside. The interior of the cabin was just as inviting, with a large stone fireplace, cozy chairs, and wooden beams that gave it a rustic, yet homey feel. Emma took a deep breath, inhaling the calmness that seemed to surround her. "It's perfect," Emma said, her voice almost a whisper as she looked around. "I didn't know a place like this even existed." She felt a bit of wonder in her tone, the simplicity of it all pulling her into a sense of peace she hadn't realized she was missing. "I'm glad you like it," Liam replied, setting their bags down and giving her a genuine smile. "I thought it would be the perfect place to relax and clear our minds for a bit. No distractions, just the two of us." He walked over to the window and looked out at the lake, the soft reflection of the sky and trees shimmering across the surface. "I think it's just what you need." He turned to her, his gaze soft but full of sincerity. Emma's heart fluttered. For the first time in a long time, she wasn't thinking about her problems or the next deadline at work. She wasn't thinking about how much she still needed to save or how she was always running on empty. For the first time in ages, Emma felt like she could just be. There was no pressure here, no expectation. Just quiet, just peace. They spent the evening by the fire, cooking a simple dinner together, sharing stories about their lives. Emma laughed more than she had in a long time, enjoying the easy conversation with Liam. There were no pretenses, no need to impress. It was just the two of them, enjoying the moment. Later, after dinner, they took a walk by the lake, the cool evening air brushing against their skin. The stars above were clear and bright, casting a soft light on the water. They walked in comfortable silence for a while, each step taken slowly, as if they both didn't want to break the peaceful spell of the night. "This is nice," Emma said, glancing up at the stars. "I don't think I've ever had a moment like this before. It's hard to believe how much my life has changed in such a short time." She looked over at Liam, her expression thoughtful. "I never expected to be here, doing this, with you." She paused for a moment, taking in the serene beauty around them. Liam stopped walking and turned toward her, his gaze steady and warm. "I'm glad you're here, Emma," he said softly, his voice filled with sincerity. "I've enjoyed getting to know you, more than I thought I would. I didn't expect any of this either, but I'm glad it's happening." He reached for her hand, and she instinctively took it, their fingers intertwining. For a moment, neither of them said anything. They just stood there, looking at each other, the quiet of the night enveloping them. Emma realized that, despite her initial fears, this was exactly what she had needed. Time to step away from the chaos of her life and breathe. And in that moment, with Liam by her side, she felt more at peace than she ever thought was possible. As they walked back toward the cabin, Emma knew she was beginning to trust not only Liam but herself. She was learning to embrace the quiet moments, to let go of the constant worry and doubt that had defined her for so long. For the first time in a long time, Emma was allowing herself to just feel, without questioning or holding back. The weekend was just beginning, and as they made their way back to the cabin, Emma felt a quiet sense of hope growing inside her. Maybe, just maybe, She was ready for something real, something lasting. And maybe, just maybe, it was with Liam. As the weekend continued, Emma found herself falling deeper into the tranquility of the cabin and the connection she had with Liam. Each moment they spent together felt effortless, like they were two pieces that had been missing from each other's lives, finally coming together. The days were filled with simple pleasures. Early morning coffee on the porch, long walks by the lake, quiet moments by the fire. Emma had never imagined that a weekend getaway could change her so much. But here she was, feeling more at peace than she had in years. One evening, after a day spent exploring the surrounding woods and enjoying the fresh air, they sat on the porch of the cabin as the sun began to set. The sky was painted in shades of orange and pink, the colors reflecting off the calm water of the lake. It was the perfect end to the day, and Emma felt a deep sense of contentment, something she hadn't experienced in so long. "This place is incredible," Emma said softly, looking out at the view. "I can't remember the last time I felt so relaxed." She took a deep breath, letting the cool evening air fill her lungs. "It feels like I can breathe here." She looked over at Liam, who was sitting beside her, his gaze focused on the horizon. His presence felt comforting, grounding. It was hard to believe that just a few months ago, she hadn't even known him. Liam turned to her, his expression thoughtful. "I'm glad you're enjoying it," he said, his voice low and sincere. "I wanted to give you a chance to unwind, to get away from everything for a while. I know you've been carrying a lot on your shoulders." He paused, his eyes meeting hers. "But you don't have to carry it all alone, Emma. Not anymore." Emma's heart skipped a beat. His words, his care, it all felt so real, so different from anything she had known before. She had spent so much of her life doing everything on her own, never letting anyone in, never allowing herself to rely on anyone. But with Liam, it felt like a safe space, where she could be vulnerable, where she didn't have to hide her fears or insecurities. "I don't even know how to explain it," Emma said, her voice quiet. "It's like, I've been so afraid of letting people in, so afraid of what it would mean to trust someone again. But with you, it just feels natural. I feel like I can finally let go of the walls I've built up." She turned to face him fully, her expression sincere. "I'm not used to feeling this way, but I think I'm starting to realize that maybe it's okay to feel." Liam reached out, gently taking her hand in his. "You don't have to have all the answers right now," he said softly. "You've been through a lot, and I'm not expecting you to change overnight. But I want you to know that I'm here. And I'm not going anywhere." His voice was steady, reassuring. "You're not alone in this, Emma. Not anymore." For a moment, there was silence between them, but it wasn't uncomfortable. It was peaceful, as if the weight of everything had been lifted, if only for a little while. Emma squeezed his hand, her heart full of emotions she didn't know how to express. She had always been afraid of opening up, but here, in this quiet cabin, with Liam by her side, she felt like she could finally breathe. The evening continued with quiet conversation, the sound of the lake gently lapping against the shore, and the warmth of the fire flickering nearby. But as the night deepened, Emma couldn't shake the feeling that something had shifted within her. She was beginning to let go of the fear, the doubt, and the walls she had spent so long building. She was starting to trust again, not just Liam, but herself. She didn't know what the future held, but for the first time, she was willing to find out. As the stars twinkled above them, Emma leaned back in her chair, feeling a sense of calm she had never known before. She wasn't sure where this connection with Liam would take her, but one thing was clear: she was ready to take the next step, ready to explore what it meant to trust, to love, and to let herself be loved in return. The weekend was slowly coming to an end, and Emma felt a deep sense of gratitude. It was hard to believe how much her life had shifted in just a few days. What had started as a simple invitation to a getaway had become a turning point in her life. As she sat on the porch of the cabin, the soft morning light warming her skin, she couldn't help but reflect on how far she had come. She had gone from someone who was constantly running on empty, afraid to trust, to someone who was finally allowing herself to open up and be vulnerable. Liam had shown her what it felt like to be seen and cared for in a way she had never known. And it was beginning to sink in that this might be the start of something truly meaningful. She glanced over at Liam, who was standing at the edge of the porch, looking out over the lake. His presence had become a constant in her life, a source of comfort and support. It was clear to Emma that their connection was more than just a fleeting moment. It was something real, something she could see herself building a future with. But as much as she felt drawn to him, she still had a few lingering doubts. Was she truly ready to let go of her fears and take the leap? Could she allow herself to trust completely, to embrace love without hesitation? She wasn't sure, but for the first time, she wasn't afraid to find out. "You okay?" Liam's voice broke through her thoughts. He turned to her, his gaze warm and understanding. Emma smiled, the uncertainty in her heart slowly fading. "Yeah, I'm good," she replied, her voice soft but certain. "I've just been thinking about everything. About how much has changed in such a short time." Liam took a few steps closer, sitting beside her on the porch. "I know what you mean. This weekend has been different. In the best way." He paused, looking out at the lake for a moment before turning back to her. "I didn't expect to find someone like you, Emma. And I'm glad I did." His words settled in her heart, warming her from the inside out. She hadn't expected to find this either, to find someone who made her feel not just loved, but understood. The fear that had held her back for so long was slowly dissipating, replaced with something stronger, a quiet hope for what was to come. "I didn't expect it either," she said quietly. "But now that it's here, I think I'm ready to see where this goes. With you." She met his gaze, her eyes reflecting the sincerity in her voice. "I'm ready to take that leap." The moment stretched between them, charged with unspoken understanding. Liam reached for her hand, his touch warm and reassuring. "I'm glad you're ready," he said softly. "Because I'm not going anywhere, Emma. I want to be with you. For real. Not just as a passing moment. I want us to build something lasting." Emma's heart raced at his words, the final piece of her fear falling away. She had spent so much of her life questioning what she was worthy of, but in this moment, with Liam by her side, she knew she was ready to embrace the love that had slowly grown between them. The morning air was still, the only sound the gentle rustling of leaves in the breeze. Emma leaned her head on Liam's shoulder, feeling a sense of peace settle over her. The future was uncertain, as it always had been, but for the first time in a long time, she wasn't afraid of it. She was ready to face it, with Liam by her side. As they sat there together, watching the sun rise over the lake, Emma realized that life wasn't about having everything figured out. It was about trusting the journey, taking the moments as they came, and allowing yourself to feel. And for the first time in her life, she was letting herself feel every beautiful, uncertain, and wonderful part of it.